guys, Chris here with Super Savvy Travelers. Listen, before I do anything, please like this video and subscribe to our channel because we've got a lot of good stuff coming up. What do you need to think about when you're buying a property in Italy besides the obvious things, location, blah, 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 blah. One of the things you have to realize is not only is the building model completely different in Italy than it is in the United States, but also the buying process is completely different. There's so many moving parts, and things like inspections many times are not even done there, which is, you know, it is what it is. It is what it is. Maybe in the higher end properties, the really high end ones, I can't imagine somebody buying something like that without an inspection. So when you go into a property that hasn't been recently renovated, I'm talking about the last 10, 15 years, understand you're probably going to have to do some electrical work. Now, electrical work is not as expensive as it is in the United States. They have a different method of getting the wires through, so it's less expensive, but it can still run into some money. Also, certain plumbing issues you might find. So that's something you want to check into before you make an offer on the house. Now, I do want to say that when you make your offer through the offer letter or the compromesso, which I'm going to do some more videos on those because we did them a while ago and they're kind of back in the queue. So you probably want to have them, up and ready. But these are the two methods of making an offer on a house in Italy. And it's vitally important that you put in conditions and clauses in the compromesso or offer letter so that if you're planning on getting inspections and you want to secure the house, with your deposit, you can actually put it in the compromesso or offer letter that's saying that conditional on passing inspections or whatever. So that's something you want to do. And again, I'll go way deep into the compromesso and the offer letter. You can scroll back and look through the playlist and things like that for those to really look at what that is. But also take our course. Our course has everything in it. There's a link down below. You don't want to miss that. Okay, so plumbing and electrics, that's pretty much understood. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel because we've got a lot of good stuff coming up. Also, follow me on Instagram at Chris Sobolev and follow Super Savvy on Instagram because Pete's got beautiful pictures of Italy. We also have our Facebook group all about Italy, which there's a link below you can go join. We do have a course that's available. It is the course that we wrote for people wanting to buy property in Italy, move to Italy. Everything you could possibly ask or want to know, we put in that course. So check it out. The link is down below. We purposely made it very affordable for you. Go buy the course, study it, write us with any questions. The HOA, who owns what and who's responsible for what? Now, in the historic centers, there's generally no HOA, just the comune, and they don't maintain the buildings. They maintain the common areas. Sometimes maintain is a strong word because they're not maintained at all. And sometimes, let's say you have, an ugly area around your house that belongs to the comune, and you go, listen, can I spiff that up? And many times they'll let you do it as long as you carry the cost yourself. And a lot of times it's not that expensive. Like say you want to brick over something and make it real pretty and smooth right next to your house. A lot of times they'll be willing to do that. So, who owns what and who's responsible for what. Another thing that I've seen a lot in Italy that I haven't seen a lot of in California is these units where there's really no HOA to speak of, but the members get together and they put their money together and handle repairs and things like that. Now, generally, if you're the top floor in any kind of a unit or condo or whatever, if it's not specifically listed in the HOA guidelines or whatever, you might be responsible for the roof. I know in the historic center, if you're on the top level, it's your roof. Now, this brings up another important point, which is if somebody is above you or the property above you is a ruin, God forbid, and water comes in, they'll have to fix it, but good luck getting them to do that. We actually know somebody that's going through that right now. They've got a beautiful renovated unit and water's coming in from a ruined roof above, and the people above are like, we're not going to spend money. So it's something you really want to be careful of. Really understand how the HOAs work. Really understand what your fees are covering and what is not covered, because you might be surprised. Okay, good. Also look at the state of the grounds to make sure that the HOA is effective. If you see a pool that's empty with mattresses and junk all over, run the other way because that's a corrupt HOA. I'll just say it straight out. If the grounds are not kept and everything's not nice and the way it should be, chances are there's corruption in that HOA because unless everybody just simply stopped paying their dues, which never happens. So I would look at that. If the grounds are in great shape, even 10, 20 years after the building was erected, great. You're probably in pretty good shape on that. All right, so another thing that I wanted to talk about is the Certificate of Habitability. Now, this covers a lot of things. And, you can always go to your geometer and go, I want to make sure it's earthquake safe. I want to make sure the building has good structural integrity. I want to make sure this and that, do. So I'm going to go over the Certificate of Habitability, which you will need if you want to rent out your place, because if you're going to rent out your place, you're going to need what's called a CHIN number. The CHIN number is an identification number for short-term rentals. You cannot rent your place out without it. So you'll need that, and in order to get the CHIN number, you will need the Certificate of Habitability. So I'm going to go over what that covers. Basically, what you need to ask the seller when you go to buy a property or make an offer on a property is, do they have a Certificate of Habitability? If not, why not? And then if you're still interested in the property, find out from an architect, an engineer, a geometer, what's it going to take to get that thing compliant with all of the articles and conditions in the Certificate of Habitability. That's something very important. Now, the Certificate of Habitability goes beyond minor renovation problems or issues. The first thing, probably the most important thing, is structural integrity of the building. Things like, the concrete, was it mixed properly, when they put it up? Is the building going to stand up through time? And has it been seismically retrofitted? There's certain seismic retrofittings that are required, and it's good because they do have earthquakes over there. And, if you put in all those seismic retrofittings, the buildings are pretty darn secure. I went through our house before we sold it to our client, and boy, oh boy, it's like Fort Knox. I mean, there's nothing going to fall down in that building. So that's good to know. So seismic resistance, overall integrity, that's the structural part that you want in your Certificate of Habitability. Now, another thing that they look at is minimum room sizes. Like if you want to have a bedroom, it's got to be minimally this measurement, right, to call it a bedroom. And does it have a window openable for ventilation and light? So this kind of covers the issues that I saw when we bought our house in Torita. There was a huge big bedroom there, but it didn't have a window that goes to the outside. It has a window that goes into the stairwell, but it doesn't go to the outside. So technically you can't call that a bedroom. And in fact, we're gonna just open that up and make a massive, big, giant bedroom suite there because we don't need that much storage space. It's called a ripostillo now, where there's a bed in there, but it's not super comfy, a little stuffy. So we're going to just open that up. But the bottom line is, if it's not up to the minimum room size, and if there's no ventilation or whatever to the outside, you can't really call it a bedroom. That's one of the things they look for. They also talk about sanitation. You have to have at least one bathroom in the unit. That pretty much goes without saying. It also covers other problems like poor drainage, mold, or any kind of contamination. Another thing it looks at is fire safety and escape routes, which, can be like a window thing. I don't know how they do it in the historic center. Our house in Torita, it's straight up. Yeah, there's a window. But what are you going to do, throw yourself out? We should probably look at some of those portable ladders or whatever just in case. But again, everything's made of bricks. I don't think it's going to burn anytime soon. Nonetheless, escape routes are covered in the Certificate of Habitability. Another thing it looks at is electric and gas. Now, a couple of things on electric and gas. Electric, we already went over. They're making sure that the electrics are put in properly. We've seen some scary stuff. And don't fall for the idea that, somebody was living there for the last 50 years. It must be habitable. No, Mola di Bari, when we did our little renovation over there for the office and resident and short-term rental that we're offering there, I fell for that. I was like, okay, we probably don't need to do too many electrics. And I called the electrician. He came in and he said, no. I'm taking this out right away because I have fear. Paura of the system. It's horrible. And, he holds up these wires and I was like, oh. And we've seen some wires, a lot of times in some of them where we've had the electrics redone, it's held together by electrical tape, like pre-90s electrical tape. That's a little bit scary. So understand that your Certificate of Habitability, if it's correctly issued, will look for all of that stuff. Now, gas, there's a couple of things to point out here. Many times in the historic centers and a lot of times in, the apartments and stuff in southern Italy, specifically, they use what's called a bombola, which is a propane tank, and they put it under the sink and then you turn on it. It's like a camp stove, but it's a really stove. but it's in your house under the sink, which is dangerous because there was an explosion, I think 20 years ago in Santa Domenica Talao. Somebody had left the gas on and it was leaking. Somebody came in and turned on the light, kablooey. A couple of people were killed. It was horrible, horrible. So the new regulations when you're setting up a house there is to put it outside. You have to have the gas unit outside in a ventilated, like a little cupboard or something like that, which we've done. But the best way to do it is to get city gas if you can, which is the city gas hookups, and there's many, many of them. A lot of times it's readily available. But if you want gas-powered appliances or gas-powered heating and cooling, make sure that you have, they call it a gasataco, the place where the gas attaches, like an outlet that near your house that you can hook up the gas to. That's probably the best way to go about it. Another thing it looks for in the newer homes is accessibility for disabled. Now, obviously in the historic centers, you're not going to find that. You'll be lucky if you find something that's, disabled access. We do have access in Casa Cristina on the first floor. We just have to get you up over the threshold in your wheelchair if you are in a wheelchair, but it's doable and we can do that. So they look for that. It's probably not in a lot of units you're gonna find that. Do they have a lift? Does the lift actually work? It's another thing to think about for your HOA. You go in, the lift doesn't work. Well, if it hasn't been working for a few months, it's probably never gonna work. So that's another thing to look at. Another thing to look at is general habitability and industrial waste in residential areas. That's horrible. So I look at that. All right, energy efficiency. So when you buy your house, by law, you have to be issued the APE, or the energy statement. And it is a document that tells you from A to G what category your house falls into. A is the best. You can actually get A++, which I've seen houses like that. They're super green, super energy efficient, very high end. Most of the houses that we've seen fall in the F and G category. Now, you can fix that. You can put in new windows, you can put in good heating and air conditioning, you can put in different things that can cause the energy rating to go up, but a lot of the older houses fall into the F/G, and most of the ones in the historic centers are G. Just saying. Another thing that the Certificate of Habitability goes over is permitting and urban planning rules. Very important, okay? Very important. There's a lot of abusive building in especially southern Italy. And I've seen some stuff that just made my hair curl, even curlier than it is, and urban planning. So let's talk about the permitting thing. Permitting can be an absolute nightmare if you buy a house that's not permitted or abusive. And many times people won't say anything. Now, or they'll go, well, it's abusive, we've had it for 20 years, nobody said anything, blah, 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 blah. That's not okay. And I saw one recently, it's still on the market, and I toured it with the agency, and I loved it. I'm like, oh, this is great, we're gonna put it on the channel, we're gonna do this. And then I found out that the in-laws quarters down below were abusive. This was a whole in-law quarter, kitchen, bathroom, bedroom, and the garage next door was probably fine, but this whole unit, it was probably maybe 60, 70 square meters, which was included, considered in the price of the house, considering it living area. It was abusive. And I looked at it, and it was very, very close to the fence, meaning it was way over on the property line. And one of the agents said, that could be a problem. Of course it could be a problem. You have to be so many feet, yards, meters, whatever, away from the property line. So that whole thing might have to be ripped out at your expense if you buy that house. Now, if you're able to go in and negotiate it all the way down, you can hopefully retroactively get it permitted, provided it's not violating any urban planning rules. That's another thing. Urban planning, historic centers, all of these things. Now, let's kind of segue over to the historic center thing. In a historic center, you're very limited, especially in Tuscany, so limited on what you could actually do to anything on the outside of your unit, and maybe even on the inside. Windows in southern Italy, in our town down there, you could only expand them by 20%, same with balconies. Roof terraces, you could only have 30% of the footprint of the house as your roof terrace, which is actually pretty generous, because in Tuscany, good luck getting a roof terrace if there's not already one there. So make sure you know what that comune, what that particular historic center is allowing you to do before making an offer. And don't ask your agent. Go to the comune or go to a geometra or go to an architect. They will find out definitively exactly what the deal is. I'm sorry to say it, but there are certain agents that have said, yeah, you can do that. And then I find out you can't do that. Or obviously you can't do that, but I asked them just to see what they say. And it's like, no, you can't do that. So be aware of that. Now understand that in some of the older homes, in some of the homes, probably in the historic centers, you may not need, an actual testing for some of these things. You may just need an attestation. I think it would be pretty difficult to take some of these 300, 400, 600-year-old homes and try to bring them up to modern day standards readily. So they have that as well. I would check with your geometra or architect or engineer to find out if your home falls into one of those categories. Another thing that they check for in your certificate of habitability is a proper disposal of sewage and waste, and also any sort of environmental impact that your house has or whatever on the surrounding area. So what I would do if I'm looking at buying a house, and instead of having all these disrelated things, the electrical, the plumbing, the this, the that, blah, 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 flying through your head, just ask if there's a certificate of habitability. And if there is, get it and go over it with your attorney or your geometra or whoever you feel comfortable going over it with. If you don't have one, get your architect, geometra, engineer, and go through the property and find out specifically every point that has to be changed or fixed. How much will it cost, and is it actually fixable for you to get that certificate of habitability? So I think that solves a whole lot of problems that you might have. It's pretty comprehensive when I look at it. And if you get that, you can be reasonably assured that things are in pretty decent shape. And if you double checked it with your architect, engineer, or geometra, I would feel pretty good about going ahead and making an offer. So there you go, guys. Stay tuned for more tips and things. We're gonna go through various different issues here on the channel again, even though I did them months ago. And like I said, you want to take our course. The link is down in the description below. It has everything you need to know in it, and it will really set you up for your property purchase, your search, everything. So take care, guys.